Good afternoon. Welcome to council time this Wednesday, July 16th, 2025. We'll start with the roll call.
Counselor Young,
Here.
Counselor Fuentes,
Here.
Counselor Little,
Present.
Chair Marshall,
Here.
and Counselor Belcott will be on shortly.
Right. I understand she'll just be a little bit late.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
I just have one on item 9.3 that should be pending litigation, not potential litigation. And that's the only change.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Then we'll go right into public comment, and public comment is on agenda items only on our council time. And just a reminder, you have a limit of 3 minutes, and to keep your comments relevant to the agenda items and not to make comments concerning private activities, lifestyle, or beliefs of others, including individual county employees or elected officials, topics unrelated to the business of the county or professional duties and performance of county employees or employees of this elected officials. And to refrain from conduct statements or remarks that are defamatory to county staff, uncivil, rude, vulgar, profane, or otherwise disruptive of the conduct of council business. So with that, do we have anyone who would like to make comments?
Carmen De Leon,
Hello, my name is Carmen De Leon, and my, friends, they call me Mello. So I'm talking in reference to the minutes of July 9th, in which case there were, I don't know how many people here telling you guys about how they've been tricked about this stuff being released, information being released 24 hours beforehand being put in here. And the community doesn't feel like you guys have been upfront with them. And boy, do I understand that. Because, according to what I heard from the testimony is that a lot of people have lost faith in all of you, including myself. Oh, well, one exception, obviously. So I did want to say that I know that you're very proud of following in Vancouver's footsteps. And it's a shame because they have a 30% of their buildings are empty. So if you want to keep following around Mayor Ann by the nose, being led by the nose, you can go right into billion-dollar bankruptcy and more people dying on the streets. So thanks, and thanks for destroying Vancouver City, and thanks for corrupting this body here. And that is my free speech statement. Another thing that was stated, I think in minute 25, it was said that I was filled with hate speech and abusive, and you guys want to do a executive meeting on me. Well, guess what? I hope you have a psychologist on post-traumatic stress disorder and a First Amendment right judge or a lawyer on your side, because I do have a First Amendment right to say what I want. Hate speech, you accuse me of abusive or threatening speech in writing or expressions, prejudice on basis of ethnicity and whatever. Okay, so if a guy comes in here with blue hair and I say, hey, that guy has blue hair, it looks like a Smurf. That's not hate speech. That's stating a fact. So good luck with trying to accuse me of hate speech because, what is the other one? Oh, I've been accused of not liking certain people, but when they're traitors, I do say that because part of the becoming a U.S. citizenship, and I gave it to you, it says right there that after the oath of allegiance to this country, oh, your first duty is the Pledge of Allegiance.
On the
It's on the minutes, minute 26. Minute 26, we talked about this. So if you want to go back and look at and by the way, this person, Carista Hotstrom, really? She just called to say these things about me, not knowing. I mean, get this. It's her first time calling. And how many times have I been here happy to give you solutions? I come here bringing you solutions, not just problems, and you want to get rid of me? Wow, thanks a lot. For, trying to do my best to help you despite my disabilities. I've been punished for my disabilities. I've been discriminated against my disabilities, and bring it on. You want to sue me? You want to cost the people more money? Go for it. I can see that you have plenty of pending litigation. So, hey, screw the people. We're just going to keep sue happy. Yeah, keep costing the people money.
Your time is up.
Deportation is on the way.
Is there anyone else
I don't have anybody else online, but I do have one caller.
Okay.
Caller, you've been sent a request to unmute. Please state your name for the record and go ahead with your comment.
Good afternoon, Kimberly Goheen Elbin. Nobody else there, huh? Well, first of all, I would like this council, if not Kathleen Otto, to put into your new policies or something that when it's on the same day, such as this 9 o'clock workshop, we should be able to speak about it on agenda items only at the 1 o'clock. So that's just something that your bosses are asking you to do. You know, a little bit of kindness will go a long way. The second thing is I noticed that on one of your sheets back, it's been about a week or so, even though the message here says push *6 to unmute yourself, sometimes people don't see that. It might be put in on your paperwork there also. I am going to be speaking on the minutes, but I want to make sure that we do have a day of remembrance. Actually, people that love God and Jesus and the Spirit, we have days of remembrances. We don't need the government telling us, you know what I mean? We have all those things. So, you know, God is always good, and I expect a miracle, and I also expect to make history here in Clark County, Washington, USA, even if it's just a few of us. Isn't that wonderful? Brings a smile to my face. So the Vancouver, on the minutes of July 9th, you gave a proclamation to Vancouver. Again, I love orchestras. I have family members that were orchestra members. However, I'm against the any thing that you do for or by the Vancouver City Council and or its staff and employees. They are a Marxist, socialist, fascist, communist form of government, and the people don't know it yet. They have it all hidden because of all the little glitzy stuff, and everything looks nice. So do not do anything with the sanctuary city of Vancouver, Washington, USA, where I was born. You are our Clark County Council. You are to run the county as the people want you to do. And if you guys have any other thoughts, which I know you do, you think that you govern over us, and you don't. And so we're even just the few of us that see this, it's coming out. We've got elections coming up and stuff. Things are going to be thrown out there. The truth will come out. A lot of people think it says it'll set you free. Actually, the truth will make you free. The truth will make you free. And that's what I'm going to rejoice on. We've done a lot of work. And again, you're having our business there, and there's no public there. It's horrible. They did show up, of course. There was those people. I want people to look at written comments that others put on. If you're
Thank you. Your time is up. Is there anyone else, Michelle? Okay, thank you. Moving on to old business, 4.1 minutes of July 9th, 2025. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
Chair, just one really minor one. Under councilor reports, it mentions districts 2 and 4, and it was actually station 2 and 4.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? So with that correction, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes with the changes recommended by Councilor Young.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. 4.2, Clark County Clerk's Office. This is an information only item. Please come forward. And I know, Scott, you weren't able to be here last week, so we appreciate you coming in. The council did not make any recommendation related to the clerk's position. And but we wanted to provide you with an opportunity to put on record anything you'd like related to the clerk's position, elected or appointed, you name it.
Thank you. I have a statement. Council Chair, council members, and county managers. My office has been asked the question, why is the county clerk should be elected rather than appointed? I will broadly answer that question, and then my chief deputy will address some of the incorrect assertions presented at the council's last meeting, implying that the independent clerk is the cause of the problems. It has been pointed out that when I first ran for clerk 15 years ago, that I supported making the position appointed. After nearly 15 years in office, I have come to the conclusion that the office should be elected, as it is in 35 of the 39 Washington counties and also in many, if not most, other states. The bottom line is that the appointed clerk will have difficulty saying no to whatever appointing authority orders, even if that order is unwise, not in the public's interest, or in a rare occasion unlawful. We have excellent judges in Clark County when it comes to their core role of determining and applying the law and running their courtrooms. However, they're not administrators or managers. The clerk should be independent and directly accountable to the voters. Over time, it's become apparent that judges should not preside over court cases and at the same time also perform clerical functions of the clerk, such as taking minutes, handling exhibits, handling search warrants, and processing various court documents. Understanding the need for independence and the historical context of the elected county clerk in other states, the 1889 framers of the Washington Constitution determined to make the job elected. When I first got elected, I brought to the clerk's office some practices from my private sector experience. We were in the 2010s at that point and knew that paper files were inefficient, the waste of natural resources were costly. I moved to implement a system that scanned court documents first and ultimately became nearly instantly available online. Some of the judges resisted to move to electronic records. They were accommodated with paper files if requested. If the clerk was not independent, bringing the court up to date technologically may not have even happened. If the judge had said no, that would have been the end of the necessary modernization that is clearly in the public's interest. Clark County is not alone in having judges resist the clerk's move to modernize and eliminate, or at least reduce paper. The judges of Franklin and Benton County were unhappy with the clerk's modernization move and issued an order for the clerk to continue use of paper. Relying on the separation of powers between the judges and the clerk refused to comply with the order. The case ultimately found itself before the Supreme Court, where the court held that maintaining the court's record was constitutionally and legislatively delegated to the clerk. The Supreme Court ruled that the judges could not interfere with the core duties of the clerk, which is record keeping. The court made a distinction between the in-court duties and the clerk and the record keeping of the courtroom, of the out-of-courtroom duties. If you look at the Superior Court argument to make the clerk appointed, they're largely related to the clerk's core out-of-courtroom duties. Another issue the judge raised last week is a disagreement over the clerk's choice of imaging system, OnBase versus Odyssey. We chose OnBase, and partly because of its flexibility it offered, and we would have local support and tech issues from our own IT department. The clerk's independent and direct accountability furthers the public interest. That has not changed since 1889, when the Washington State Constitution was adopted. The clerk is not the only elected county official that involves record keeping. The treasurer, assessor, auditor are also involved in significant record keeping functions. The framers of the Washington Constitution believed in protecting the integrity of public records. They intended to protect the integrity by having elected officials directly responsible to the voters. Disagreements over computer programs is not an adequate reason to change the framers' intent. The county clerk's purpose is to ensure the separation of powers amongst the three branches of government by preserving the integrity of the judicial and by being independent of the judiciary branch. The clerk protects the judiciary from the appearance of impropriety and unfairness in setting of cases, processing orders, or investing of funds. In a 2023 opinion by the State of Washington Ethics Advisory Committee, it states, in order to preserve public confidence in the integrity and impartiality of the judiciary, it is important that there be a clear separation between the judicial and the executive function. At the Superior Court level, the clerk is a constitutional position that exists outside the judicial branch. The opinion also goes to state that previous advisory opinions explain that the boundaries created by separate branches of government are essential to uphold the public's confidence in integrity and impartiality of the judiciary. Finally, I would suggest it's doubtful that the voters would agree to remove their power to elect a clerk and place that power in the hands of the court or any other appointed authority.
Thank you very much. Charlene, would you like to say a few things?
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Charlene Huffman, the Chief Deputy County Clerk. I was present during last week's Superior Court presentation, supporting their proposal to change the clerk from an elected position to an appointed one. I listened with interest as information was provided to the council and the public. There were several assertions that I believe were inaccurate, and I feel it is important for the council and the public to hear the clerk's rebuttal. The court is entitled to respect and deference in matters of law, but the core of the Superior Court proposal to change the clerk from an elected to an appointed position are not matters of law, but rather complaints regarding management issues. The clerk has provided a statement as to why the clerk should remain an executive elected position outside of the judicial branch as prescribed by the Constitution. Therefore, I will not address that issue. And I realize the council is probably experiencing database fatigue. Therefore, I will quickly address the 3 points Superior Court listed in their public presentation as reasons to appoint the clerk: public benefit, efficiencies, and cost savings. The first point in the Superior Court PowerPoint presentation was public benefit. The only public benefit Superior Court drew attention to was the clerk's website showing the hours the office is open to the public. Our office hours in no way affect the litigants getting to court. Hearings are generally set at least 5 to 10 days ahead of time. There are reader boards on the ground floor and the first floor of the courthouse, providing litigants with locations of hearings. Our condensed office hours do not inhibit those litigants getting to their hearings. The clerk's office used to be open during lunch, but as time has gone on and our requests for additional staffing have not been approved, we have had to accommodate, and decreasing our open hours is one of the only ways we have to react to short staffing. Council has not approved requests for needing staffing with the addition of either the 11th or 12th judge. When judicial officers are added, there are additional in-court and in-office duties to perform. With the addition of each judicial officer, the clerk's workload increases, yet the clerk has been denied needed staff. The clerk has requested additional management staff since we have only one permanent manager for 47 people. In the 2025 budget, we were granted a 2-year project management position only. The second point presented was the efficiencies would be found if the clerk were appointed under the court. Judge Vanderwood gave the example of district court and mentioned a unified court system. Unfortunately, Superior Court is a different type of court, a court of record, and the state has not moved to a unified court system. RCWs and court rules mandate duties of the Superior Court clerk. We do not function as district court. In addition, the judge described how Superior Court staff could fill in and help with the clerk duties to find more efficiencies. Again, unfortunately, you cannot have a crossover of duties between existing Superior Court staff, which are non-represented employees, and the clerk staff, which are all represented by the union. This might seem like a great idea, but from a practical management perspective, this would create problems between the union and the county that nobody wants. Over the last few years, the clerk's office has found efficiencies and streamlined processes, but you can only achieve so much without appropriate staffing. Also, there is absolutely no proof that changing to the state's imaging system will bring any efficiencies. I would argue the opposite. In fact, statewide, only 20 of the 39 Superior Courts utilize the state Odyssey system. 19 counties employ imaging systems other than Odyssey, such as OnBase and Laserfish. The third point presented by Superior Court was the cost savings for the county if the clerk were appointed, and the emphasis was on the savings in OnBase license fees. The clerk's office budget for on-base is approximately $180,000 for 2025 and is budget neutral as licenses purchased by outside entities cover the cost. The 2025 cost for combined Superior Court and Juvenile Department licenses is approximately $22,000, with revenue and expenses affecting the general fund. In addition, it was presented to council that district court is paying $90,000 per year in on-base license fees, which in fact they are. But the clerk's decision to employ on-base as its imaging system has nothing to do with district court choosing on-base for its imaging system. Even if the clerk were utilizing the state's Odyssey imaging system, it would have no effect on district court, as district court has not yet transitioned to the Odyssey database and will not until 2027. To imply that district court could save $90,000 in on-base fees if the clerk was utilizing Odyssey is an error. To sustain the processing of documents in the state's Odyssey system, the Administrative Office of the Courts analyzed in 2018 that the clerk would need an additional staffing of approximately 10 people. That is just to process, enter, and scan documents and make them available to the court and the public. In addition, the clerk would need at least 2 additional permanent managers for a staff of that size. The cost for such an increase in staffing would be approximately $900,000 per year to the county in salaries. I believe the cost-benefit analysis is clear. We know the county is struggling to fund the needs of all county departments. The current cost of less than $25,000 per year for Superior Court on-base licenses is a much better return on investment than the $900,000 per year in salaries that would be required to sustain the clerk's office transition to and continued use of the Odyssey system. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from council? Go ahead.
Yes,
Councilman?
I did have, thank you for coming today. I did have one question around on base, is that what it's called? On base. So how much is the county overall paying for that? And it comes out of the county clerk's budget.
I am unclear what the county is paying because there is a portion of the county outside of the clerk's office that uses on-base.
Okay.
So I don't know what the total county on-base budget is. Our portion is the 180,000.
Okay. And then you had mentioned that outside entities use it and pay for those services. Are those functions of the county or are they functions of organizations that are completely separate from it?
The law and justice community, the legal community, we do have different departments within the county. We do have CCSO, the PA's office. In total, all county departments for the licenses is approximately $37,000. There are governmental agencies outside of the county that subscribe, and they have discounted license fees, just like other governmental. But in general, the legal community, attorneys, and all those are what pays the bulk of it.
Okay. Thank you. Just that was something that was unclear to me with all the messaging that's gone back and forth. So thank you for clarifying.
And if I could just add, and I'll get clarity from our IT director, but he did, and I'd forward this to council like a week ago, that the annual amount spent on licensing in support of on-base over the last 3 years, it was $156,000 in 23. In 2024, it was $282,000. And then through June of this year, it's $351,000. I'll get clarification on, I do know it includes the court systems, but if there's a.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll proceed to new business 5.1 proclamation request, Day of Remembrance proclamation. Hi, Jordan.
Good afternoon, counselors. For the record, Jordan Bogey, policy analyst. We have a proclamation request here for you to consider. This is a proclamation that the county has done the last several years. And this would be for Day of Remembrance for homicide victims. And so this comes to us from the National Women's Coalition Against Violence and Exploitation, as well as Odyssey World International. They will be hosting a community candlelight vigil and a memorial ceremony at Esther Short Park in September. And they were hoping that the county could once again do a proclamation for this event. And as I looked at calendars, it looked like probably what would make the most sense schedule-wise is to have this proclaimed at the September 16th council meeting. And then there is a request from the folks holding this event if there would be a counselor who might also be willing to read the proclamation at the event itself, which will be held on Thursday, September 25th in the evening at 6 p.m. And so I present this to council for your consideration, see if you're supportive, and then if so, to see who might be interested in reading either at the council meeting and then at this event on the 25th.
I would be supportive, counselors. I think thumbs up. Is there anyone who would like to read this? I'd be happy to read it, and I think I'll be able to go to the event as well. Okay, I'm going to go for it. Thank you.
Thank you, councilors.
Okay, then moving on to councilor reports. Go ahead, Councilor Young.
Just a couple of quick ones. We did hold the opioid abatement council meeting this week. Just mostly housekeeping things that took place. We're, gearing up on getting ready for the process of moving through again. We also, the steering committee for the homeless action plan met, and we're doing some good work in there, getting some really good and detailed information on direction that we want to head as the county and in the plan. And then the last thing was that Councilor Fuentes and Chair Marshall and I had the opportunity to attend a ribbon cutting ceremony for 4D, which they work with youth, younger people in our community, and offer recovery services and support, and looking forward to seeing that take place in our community. It is something that is sorely needed. And it was good to see our mental health sales tax dollars at work. They did receive a grant from that fund. So it was a pleasure to be there. We welcome them. They started in Portland, and many of them were born and raised in the Vancouver area, and so they're returning back home. So it was a neat ceremony to be able to watch and be a part of.
Great, thank you for those reports. And that was a very good event with 4D, and I think they're looking to expand further in Clark County as resources become available. Any other councilor reports? Okay, then let's move on to work session requests.
None today.
No work session requests. Okay, policy updates. Jordan, we'll start with you.
Wonderful. Thank you, councilors. I wanted to take a little bit of time today to present as an introduction some draft priorities for the 2026 legislative session. Each year that I am here with council, I'm trying to get us started a little bit earlier on the process. And so before I really dig into some of these draft items that I'll talk through here today, I just wanted to lay out the process a little bit, especially since I know we have a couple of new counselors who haven't been through this before, and we're also just always in the process of improving and refining how we work through our legislative priorities for the county here. So typically, the process as we work backwards, so as we're looking ahead to 2026, it is a short session, and so just 60 days. It will be a sprint through that legislative session, especially as compared to what it felt like this past session. And so it'll all go very quickly. But looking at that, we need to be ready prior to the beginning of the year. The session does start in January with any recommended priorities that the council might have to work through with our lobbyist, that we can talk through with our delegation. And so as we develop these priorities, we're going to have a first meeting here today to kind of just talk through what I have heard over the first part of the year, some of the things that the threads that have been left hanging from the last legislative session. Then, based on the feedback from what I get from council today, I will start to refine. I'll start to work with our lobbyists around framing out what our priorities are going to be for the session. I also typically in the fall have outreach and conversations with each of the county departments, and I send a note out to our senior leadership team and ask them to send me from their view as administrative folks and people who are working on the day-to-day. Are there any items that they see as potential priorities or fixes that we could work on at the policy level or legislative level to improve life for our residents or improve how the county functions or any of that? And so it'll be an iterative process as we refine these priorities. And typically there are a handful of key priorities that we'll focus on, and then a larger parking lot of issues that are certainly relevant to the county, but are maybe not rising to the level of seeking out funding or legislation, but just give a sense of how we might want to react to some potential key issues coming up. And then also in the fall, we would, the last couple of years, we've had a briefing with our legislative delegation as well. And so that involves us inviting everyone from the 17th, 18th, 20th, and 49th districts to come down and meet with council. And at that event, we'll talk a little bit about what's going on in the county to keep our delegation informed about all the great things that are happening here and some of the challenges that we could potentially use their help with, as well as giving them an initial briefing of the priorities that the county has for the next upcoming legislative session. And if council is supportive of doing that again this year, we would likely try to schedule that in September or October. Around then, that's usually a good time to try to get the delegation here. And so just that's at a high level, that's kind of the process that I'm hoping to follow this year. Certainly welcome to any input. It comes around on an annual basis, and we're just trying to improve our efficiency and make sure that we are doing as much as we can for the county and making sure that we're ready to advocate for the county's needs in Olympia. So with all that said, I'll get into here the draft legislative priorities themselves. And so I've bucketed this out a little bit based on, some of the requests that typically are recurring or that we may have annually, kind of regardless of what's going on. I've got just one unsupported priority. We were fairly successful with many of our requests in this last legislative session. And then a quick list of some potential 2026 priorities, or these may be some of them parking lot issues that we can be aware of and be tracking, but may not necessarily be one of the key priorities that we set our lobbyists to working on this fall. And so I'll kind of walk through, feel free to stop me if you have any questions along the way. And then at the end, I'd ask for any reflections that you might have, or if there's anything else that you see obviously missing that should be added to this draft list as it gets created. So looking at the first bucket there, which is the annual and recurring requests, typically, we have the ability to submit a local community capital project request. And so this last year, that is where we got the $1.5 million to support work on the jail and the jail work center. And so I would imagine, given the high level of need around the jail, that may be the focus of our request again this year, but it is a bucket that is open to a number of different types of capital requests, typically in the $500,000 to a couple $1 million range for these kind of capital requests, but it is dedicated state funding that can help us out. And our delegation has been historically very supportive. Representative McClintock, in particular, she was really instrumental in helping us secure capital funding for the jail this last time around. Indigent defense system funding is likely to be a priority again of the Association of Counties, and is something I know that we are very concerned with, because by the time the new caseload standards that the Washington Supreme Court just implemented are fully implemented in a decade, it will triple costs for indigent defense or more for the county. So going from $7 or $8 million a year to potentially as much as $27 or $28 million if fully implemented. And That is not counting the challenges in workforce and things like that. That also are big challenges for many counties. We are more well positioned here in Clark County just because we have more people and more of a population base to draw from in terms of available legal folks, but it is still challenging. Still will be challenging to staff up fully to the levels that the state Supreme Court is requiring. In addition to that, there are questions around whether the state should more fully fund indigent defense, because right now they're only funding about 3% of indigent defense costs across the state. The rest of those costs are being borne at the local level. And so trying to secure funding from the state to provide this constitutionally mandated service is something that we've been tilting at for a while now, and I anticipate likely being a priority again, as I said, certainly of Wasac and potentially of Clark County as well. Another item that has been an annual recurring item on our list is maintaining funding for all of the litany of projects that are happening along the 179th Street corridor. And so that involves both, mostly that involves WashDOT funding, although the state does support, some of the county roads and things like that, and that funding is being used on county projects down 179th Street. There's also a kind of a delicate dance of timing around updating the intersections, updating the rest of the road. And so we had that funding. It's been secure for a few years now, but typically we're playing defense. And given the fact that it's likely to be another challenging fiscal legislative session for the state, we'll probably be playing defense on making sure that funding continues again. Another item is around lake management work. So the last few years, we have received provisos giving funding to develop a lake management plan for Vancouver Lake, and also to begin some of the implementation of that plan. We did actually, again, get funded by the legislature, but the governor vetoed it in this last session, as you'll recall. And so I imagine that's something that will likely come up again in the 2026 session. The final item that has been an annual kind of recurring item is looking toward funding a proviso for a third corridor visioning study. So there was some work that was done back in 2008 that started to look a little bit about what a third crossing across the Columbia River might look like. And that is something historically that the county has made a priority due to the fact that, only having I-5 and 205 across the river is just, it's challenging. It's a bit of a bottleneck, and most other major metropolitan areas have more bridges over large rivers when they're connecting large population centers. And so thinking long term, this is something that, as we've seen with the I-5 bridge, can take an awfully long time to build. And so historically, the county has been trying to start that visioning process so that even if we're looking 20, 30 years ahead, we are getting that process started and the ball rolling on that.
Hey, Jordan, I have a question on this one. Have we ever gotten any traction related to that third corridor visioning?
We have not gotten a ton of traction. And in fact, it was something that was pulled from the 2025 priority list due to the fact that there was going to be so much happening around bonding and support for the I-5 bridge replacement. And so I think from what I have heard, talking to different folks, both in the legislature and related, is that folks do see a need for eventually another corridor for some of the reasons I've listed, but the focus has really been on trying to replace the I-5 bridge. And I would guess that until construction starts and it really is underway with replacing the I-5 bridge, it will be tough to get a lot of traction on this topic.
That's my sense as well. So I don't know if we want to keep it on the list or.
It certainly could get moved to the parking lot or removed completely if that's what council wants. It's totally up to you. But historically, there has been interest.
Let's see what Councilor Young has to say about it.
I would say we keep it on with the expectation that it's not going to be funded. but it's just one of those things, we want them to continue hearing it. You know, it's something that needs to be looked at, and I don't want, you know, in a few years or whatnot, there's turnover in the legislature and everything for people to be, what is this? You know, when we start over again, I'd like for that continuity to be there. But understanding that it's unrealistic that anything's going to happen, and at least until the bridge is underway.
Okay. Enough about that. Please continue.
Thank you, Council. So the next bucket of items is 2025 unsupported priorities. And the biggest one that we did not receive any support for this last session was related to permitting system upgrades. So as you'll recall, we, in collaboration with the rest of the eCityGov Alliance, which is a number of cities and counties in Washington that have joined together to create a consortium to basically find some efficiencies of scale around permitting software. And so there's some front end software that these group of counties are using to make permitting easier for our residents, a little bit more of a streamlined process that meets local government and local resident needs around permitting. There was a hope to get more funding to do upgrades in terms of the back end of the system. So not the front end that you're clicking on and typing things into in the user interface, but the back end of like the coding, the database housing, all that stuff. And there was a desire to get some funding from Washington State Commerce, where there would be a 50% split, $2.7 million from the collective group of cities and counties in this consortium in the eCityGov Alliance, and then ideally about $2.7 million from the Washington State Department of Commerce. We did not receive that. Senator Cortez was a champion for us on this, and we did have some legislative support, but ultimately did not move forward. So that is potentially an option where we can move forward. I have not had a chance to check in with the folks at the eCityGov Alliance yet to see if they're just planning on moving forward with their back-end systems and are not trying to get more state funding, or whether this is something they'll be tilting at again in this session. But I have it sitting here in case it is, because that would reduce the cost that the county has to pay into that consortium. And over the long term, since the county is one of the initial local governments that is in this consortium, we will actually benefit more as other local governments join. There's kind of an early adopter bonus, and then as other governments join, they'll be paying into it. And so that will provide some economies of scale, some financial advantages, in addition to the improved permitting software. And then I've got a list here of other potential 2026 priorities and issues of concern. These are things I've been hearing over the first chunk of the year, or some of them have been retained from last year's parking lot. And those include things like access to prenatal care, particularly for those receiving Medicaid in our community. And we just had the summit with public health and a number of members of our legislative delegation, as well as folks from the State Department of Health. And I think public health is going to be bringing back some recommendations around some policy issues for council to consider adopting a little bit later this summer. But I think that's going to be something that will come up in this legislative session. Certainly with the federal cuts to Medicaid that are coming, this will only become a higher level, higher profile issue as folks are experiencing challenges with accessing care, and the fact that Medicaid recipients make up a significant chunk of revenue for our local hospital systems, and they will definitely be impacted as well. So there may be a number of related issues that come up with that we'll be keeping track of. Another item that's come up a few times, particularly in ECHO, is Chuukese language access and translation recognition. So for a number of languages across Washington State, the state recognizes languages as folks maybe need an interpreter or get interpretation services. With Chuukese, they are not an official recognized language from the state, and so it has been hard at times for folks in our Chuukese community to be able to have folks, family, friends, whoever, come and serve as translators for them as they try to especially access like medical care and things like that, where it's important for them to know what folks are talking about if their English skills are a little more challenged. And so that's something that's come up a few times, and there may potentially be a way for us and maybe some of the other folks on ECHO. We will be working with the other members of ECHO to develop a draft ECHO legislative priority list as well. And so I imagine that's something that will likely come out of that work too. And so that's something for us to consider as a priority. Another item that's come up a few times in the last few years is.
Say, Jordan, I wanna pause on the Chukis language, because is there anything that at the county level we can officially recognize the Chukis or other languages that could be a helpful thing? I don't know if the city of Vancouver has done that. I thought that perhaps they did. And I know district court has indicated that they're working with the Chukis community and, some of that population to help. So I'm just wondering, and I think Fourth Plane Forward as well has been doing some work as far as translation and the Chukis. So wondered how much things are being alleviated as far as a problem locally, or if the state level is really where we want to make sure that it's recognized.
That is an excellent question. I can see about getting a little bit more information and following up with you. For the most part, I've only heard the challenges with access, but it'd be great to know if the city's done some work on this, or if other county departments have done it, and maybe there's some actions we can take at the local level as well.
Right, thank you.
And Chair, I did actually reach out to district court before this meeting, asked about it. And because it's not a certified language with the state does not provide any funding for it. They've tried to find creative ways to get interpreter contracts for that language. It is a challenge. One of the things that they are looking at is using one of the contracts that they use and move that money over to get a full-time interpreter position. But it is a challenge. They're having to work around schedules, and it would, I think the state and certification of the language will help alleviate some of that with funding and access.
That's great. So I think I'd want to elevate that one for sure.
Thank you. I'm just making a note there. And then another issue that we've heard a few times is parity in retirement age for corrections officers. So other first responders, our law enforcement folks, our police officers, our deputies, firefighters, they have an earlier retirement age than 65 because of how challenging, physically demanding the work is. However, for our retirement, the retirement age for our corrections officers is still 65. And so you've got corrections officers who are in their 60s. They are doing a very physically demanding job. You can imagine that it can be quite challenging. And so that is something that's come up a few times as a potential legislative fix that could be done, as well as creating parity in the state system around the retirement age for our corrections officers with the rest of our law enforcement community.
Councilor Young has a question.
Yes, this one is one that I think should be high priority. Our corrections officers, they go through a lot. Their day in and day out work can be very, very challenging and disturbing. And they experience a lot of trauma in this field of work. So definitely very supportive of trying to push that one forward.
I wonder if there's been any ongoing or previous efforts, or if there's union involvement or some representation for the corrections officers that we could piggyback on.
I'll follow up with our jail team. I've been in good communication with them during the last few legislative sessions, around a number of issues, including funding, the retirement age. I know they had a potential issue that didn't end up moving forward last year related to crossing state boundaries, which, living so close to Portland was occasionally an issue related to transport for them. But I can follow up with our jail folks and see if they're aware of any other ongoing efforts on that.
Thanks.
And just to add to that, just because I have personal experience with somebody in the fire industry, and some data points that Jordan, maybe they have or the union or guild will have is those positions have a shorter retirement because of their exposure. Their life expectancy is actually less than others based on their exposures and the work that they're doing.
I think that's the case for the corrections officers as well. Not so much. Well, I think there's plenty of substances they're exposed to as well.
I will take a look at that. And if I'm remembering correctly too, I think, I think that the corrections folks have also talked about how the life expectancy for corrections officers is quite a bit less than the general population. Few more items here, moving down the list. The next item is the benthic algal mats. As you know, we heard a little bit recently from public health around not just the blue-green algae that is often at the surface of lakes and warm water, but these benthic mats that may have come loose from the bottom of the river in the Columbia in particular, and maybe happening elsewhere in the state, but that it's toxic to pets and humans as well. And so looking to see if there's any work that can be done at the state level to support our understanding of these issues and make sure that folks are, to the extent possible, not getting sick from that. Another item that we talked a little bit about at the end of the last session as well is funding for the Brockman campus. As you'll recall, that is the involuntary treatment facility that was built near Wazoo, Vancouver. The state spent a lot of money building this big, nice, new, beautiful facility, but only gave it enough funding to be warm closed. So they've got a handful of staff maintaining the property, but otherwise it is not open. And so that is another item where we can lobby the state and request that that they open the facility, given the amount of need in the community, so that folks don't have to go up to Western State or wait weeks or months to get the treatment that they need. Another item that we've talked about quite a bit this year is related to forest conservation funding and activities. So that could be related to the protection of some of these more mature forests, potential land swap funding from the state, potential sequestration funding out of the Climate Commitment Act. There are a number of potential options and revenue streams related to those forest conservation activities. And I think as council works to develop what you would like to do in terms of policy direction and programmatic options related to what we can do to protect forests in the county, there likely will be a nexus with legislative activities, and there may be options for requesting funding or other kinds of support in the next legislative session. And so that is still being built a little bit, but I do anticipate that those are some conversations that will come up as we develop our more robust full list of legislative priorities moving forward as well. Another item is ensuring that projects in Clark County receive housing trust fund support. So the Washington State Department of Commerce manages the housing trust fund at the state level. They provide funding to support housing work in the whole state of Washington for the 2025 funding cycle. So for this calendar year that was applied for back at the end of 2024, no projects in Clark County received funding. And so want to make sure that we are talking with our legislative delegation, that they are aware that this was the case in 2025, and hopefully can make sure that as applications are being considered, that a lot of the great housing projects that are happening here in our community are moving forward and receiving state support where it is available. And another item is the Southwest Washington Law Enforcement Academy. We do have a temporary facility for training that is open that has been really a big benefit to our local law enforcement agencies in being able to hire folks and get them trained up quickly. I know we'd like to make that permanent. And I know our delegation is also aware of this, and I think for a number of them it is a priority as well. But making sure that that facility becomes permanent and is available, and that we find a funding stream and a facility to have that ongoing into the future.
And if I could just add, I know Jordan, there's a lot, he's going to be reaching out to departments and stuff, but as I was looking at this, and I chatted with the sheriff earlier and just learned that the state has rescinded the funding to pay people to go to the academy. So that is now going to be a cost for the counties. It's about $7,400 per person to send them to the academy. So Jordan will be adding that to this list as well.
Was that tucked into the budget? Then
I would assume so, because I did not know
First.
about that. Yeah, the sheriff just told me earlier today, and he believes it also impacts the jail staff as well.
yikes. Thanks for that update.
Fighting against unfunded mandates, big part of what we do. Another item that has historically been in a topic of conversation as well is potential sales tax remittance. So, living here in Southwest Washington, many folks go and do shopping for large purchases in Oregon, where there is no sales tax. And so there is an amount of sales tax leakage that occurs in the county that, has reduced over time due to the Supreme Court's Wayfair decision several years ago that allowed for taxation of shipped goods to wherever they're going. So now when you buy something off of Amazon or wherever, you're paying sales tax if it's getting shipped to your home in Washington. So that has reduced that issue somewhat, but has not totally removed it. And we are unique here in Clark County, having Portland right across the river. Some folks in other parts of the state do abut the rest of Oregon, or Spokane does abut Coeur d'Alene, but the scale of the leakage is much larger here than it is in those other locations. Historically, the legislature has not been very receptive to this idea, but it is something that we have tilted at various points in the past. And then another item that has—
We have a comment here from Councilor Young.
Jordan, I was wondering if you can, as you're talking to our lobbyists and as you're talking with our local reps here, see if there's support around this. I would love to see this happen, but I also see it being a long shot. And if it really is a long shot and we don't really feel like we at least would have support from our local delegation to really push for this, then it might be something that we would consider removing. But we don't have to make that decision now. But if you could kind of get a feel for that, I think that would be great.
Sure thing.
Councilor Belcott.
I know that we talked about this during the last legislative session with the former chair, who asked, I believe it was you, Jordan, that forwarded those examples to, I believe now Senator Harris. And I think several of the other delegates that were in attendance at that meeting, if I do recall. And then we never heard back from them whether they supported or not. So I know that it was discussed. I don't know if it was you that sent that info to them or not.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I think it was Chair Medvedev that sent that at the time. And we've had several discussions about this. The former chair was definitely a passion of his at looking at the sales tax remittance issue for sales tax leakage. And I know we had some conversations with the council trying to get at the magnitude of that. I know Mark Gasway had done some work around exactly how much we were losing, kind of trying to model it out and how it's changed over time. It used to be sounded like a fairly larger amount, and now is maybe in the single digit millions of dollars, given some of the recent changes that I mentioned around being able to get sales tax from shipped goods and things like that. But in terms of the response from the legislative delegation, you're right, Counselor. We haven't really heard a lot back, and generally, I have not heard much of an appetite from our delegation to support this. You know, and often what the legislature will say broadly, not necessarily any specific members of the delegation, but that, you know, we have as a county other taxing tools we could be taking locally, and in the absence of taking those, you know, basically in the absence of taking or maximizing the potential available dollars that could be taxed locally, there wasn't a lot of appetite for the state to step in and give a remittance due to the leakage across the river. Is pretty much in broad strokes kind of what the response has been generally.
That's what I thought. Thanks, Jordan.
Kathleen, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, that's what I was going to share. We've heard that over a few years since I've been in this role. That is, and it's the 1%.
It's a 1%.
I'll just say it as it is, that if the county's not willing to institute what they have available to them, they were not inclined to do anything.
We have taken it 2 out of the last 3 years, so there's that. Yes, Counselor.
Yeah, and we can prioritize this list later. We should probably make it shorter. But you know, this one is important, and even if it's not politically feasible, it's always good to keep that messaging going. I think our delegation is I mean, the conversations I've had that seem they pretty open to continuing that conversation because we're really unique, and that is money. So, and I understand that argument against us, but we should keep that dialogue going. And I look forward to this conversation. But I think we should have another conversation about trying to prioritize the list a little bit.
Absolutely. And I do believe the list is going to get longer before it gets shorter, but prioritization will help us be successful.
Sure. Just one last comment on that. You know, when we talk about the 1%, yes, we have taken it 2 out of the last 3 years. That's important. But the long-term history does certainly have an impact. And the interesting thing is that I have heard this as well from our local delegates. And the interesting part is that it comes from both sides of the aisle. Both sides see it the same way. If you're not doing what you can here locally, then why am I going to use my political capital to go fight for funding for you? So it's important to consider as we get closer to the budget.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jordan.
All right. We'll have one more on the list that's in front of you, and 3 more just based on a couple of other things I heard between finishing this and coming to you here. So we're almost done. But the final few items here are septic elimination legislation. There have been conversations about moving to make it to streamline or improve or provide funding to get folks off of septic and onto city systems. I know there's some work towards that last session. I think that ultimately didn't end up moving forward, but that is something that has been a conversation topic as well.
Okay, that brings us to.
And then
there's still one left.
Yeah, just a couple more. So as you'll remember too, the Treasurer's Office last year brought a proposal from the Association of Treasurers that council was supportive of for cost recovery for treasurer services, as right now they don't get cost recovery from the junior taxing districts for the treasury services that they provide to them. And so essentially this would help cover some of their costs in the treasurer's office rather than being subsidized by the general fund. And so that's something that council could consider supporting again this year. And then the final couple items that didn't make it on the list are the Clean Building Initiative at the state level. So the state is mandating clean building upgrades to all of our buildings over a certain size, but that is an unfunded mandate. And so trying to do what we can to receive state support to do that work, which is quite expensive when you have a large number of buildings that are in need of upgrades. And then the final item is something that I heard from the sheriff's office, and I need to get a little bit more information on this, but it sounds like we have the body worn camera program, and body worn camera footage can be released for the public viewing so that folks know what's happened with any kind of incident that's going on. But it sounds like there's an old law in the books that does not allow for dash cam footage to be released. And so the sheriff had mentioned that perhaps we could work towards trying to make it so that dash cam footage could also be released to, sometimes, if an officer is right next to someone, it can be kind of hard to tell what's happening from the body cam footage, and the dash cam may be more instructive for folks if it were allowed to be released.
Great.
I have
That's
a
a new one for me. Yes, go ahead.
Question, Jordan, off the top of your head, I don't know if you know this, but when is the building mandates, when are those supposed to be fully completed?
Ooh, I know it's a decently, it's over a few year time horizon, but I don't have that right in front of me. I don't know if Kathleen might know. If not, I can get that information for you.
Yeah, it is over the next couple of years, but there's things that we need to start right away. And I know Michelle Schuster, she come and talk to the finance team, and they're talking with the state about what that actually means for the timing. Like, could we start it and not have it fully funded because it will impact our budget. So what is being compliant on the timeline? So as soon as we get that solid information back, I can bring it back to council.
Thanks, Kathleen.
And so those are the initial draft list. As the chair said, this list will probably get longer before it gets shorter. And as Councilor Little noted, there'll be a prioritization process that occurs too. Basically, right now we're in the fact-finding mode, and so I try not to assume that I know what every department or every group might be interested in. So I try to talk to as many folks as possible, collect that list. Bring it back to council. We'll work together to prioritize that based on your direction in terms of the policies you want to proceed with, and then we'll meet up with the delegation and have a conversation with them. And then before you know it, January will be here, and we will be in the next session.
Chair,
Go ahead.
I just want to thank you, Jordan, for keeping this track of this. It's a big job to just keep track of all our ideas and the priorities, and I really appreciate you keeping this list.
Thank you.
Great. I shared this list with Senator Cleveland, and what would be helpful to me is if there could be a line or two that explains some of these things, because I found myself a little bit fuzzy, especially I think it was that eCity Gov Alliance when I couldn't quite recall what that meant. So, a little explanation. It's good to have just this short, just bulleted kind of list, but if there's a little bit of explanation, that could be a helpful tool as well. Okay.
No problem. Yeah, as we get deeper in, I'll definitely have an Excel spreadsheet where we have a list of things, a list
Everything.
of priorities, topics, and then a little more fuller description for you.
Great. Other policy?
So those were the items that I had for you today. I just wanted to give just a brief update. I know we talked last week about affordable housing, and the direction from council was to work to put together a menu of options and schedule a work session with the treasurer and some other folks so that council could consider that more fully. So I just want to let you know I'm still we're getting that pulled together, and we'll let you know when that gets scheduled for moving forward.
Great, but we don't have a date for that at this point.
Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
I have some new information related to affordable housing that I learned that may make us consider putting something on the agenda sooner than later. What I found out is if we could take action or put it up for public consideration or consideration of 1590, the Councilmatic sales tax option, it would potentially free up money from 1406, that 800,000 or so which is about the amount that they need up in Battleground for a 100-unit affordable housing deal that they're trying to find a funding gap for and close this month. So it's timely to take, at least consider this sooner than later. So I guess I would propose or see if there's a majority of the council that would be willing to consider this as soon as we can fit it on the agenda, possibly next week.
I would like to have an update on, because my understanding was they had till, I think, the end of the year related to get their funding in order for that, what is the name of that project in Battleground?
Weaver Creek.
Weaver Creek. So I'd be supportive of looking into it. I don't know if we want to wait. I guess the question would be, do we
Yeah.
wait till we get this work session and see the full suite of things that might be possible? The 1590 would quite likely be the largest pot of money that could be available.
Right. Yeah. Vancouver Housing Authority said that this opportunity closes this month for that facility.
Oh, for the facility.
Yeah. And taking action on 1590 would free up the money from the 1406 is what I understand. So we could learn about it and take action in the same session and have public comment.
You won't be able to take action during a work session.
Yeah, I'm not proposing doing it as a work session. I'm proposing to actually put it on the agenda for next week.
We don't have a council meeting next week, do we?
No, we don't have a Tuesday meeting
Soon as
until
possible.
August 5th.
August 5th, the next council meeting.
Got it.
So,
And I would also, just for work session purposes, we have at least 2 a week for the next month that have been scheduled. We can certainly do a special meeting with a 24-hour notice, but a Tuesday meeting, the next one is August 5th.
That's just what I know, and it's an opportunity for us.
Is this something that, because I haven't heard anything about the Battleground location, is that something council wants to get fully briefed on and also have an analysis done to make sure that the funding is within the requirements that's being? Because usually I know when you've looked at facilities and supporting other jurisdictions, there's actually a much larger
I think this is a
conversation.
project we have already contributed some funding for. I would like to get a better understanding of what the deadline is and what closes, because I came away with a different understanding. So getting some clarity on that, how immediate the need might be, would be good. Jordan, can you clarify anything?
Say who's having that discussions.
Yes, Chair. So the council has allocated funding for the Weaver Creek Commons project from 1406 funds previously. There was, I believe it was about $670,000 that council approved from the 1406 funds last year to support that project.
I think the concern would be they might lose their ability to complete that project if they don't get some additional funding. Councilor Young, you were in that meeting we had with and
Yeah, that would be new information to me. Not saying that it's incorrect, but that's not what was discussed during the meeting. So maybe there's something that's happened since then. But I don't like to put the cart before the horse. And I feel like this work session really is needed before we direct the 1406 funding. So yeah, it's a hard one. I don't know how we can finagle that. Maybe we can reach out to VHA and see if we can get some clarity on that. But I'll be upfront. I'm gonna struggle looking at 1590. Is it 1590 or 1509? 1590. Yeah, I'm gonna struggle with that without having the whole picture in front of us.
Chair.
yes, go ahead.
Staff, 1406 is not, releasing those funds is not dependent on 1590. correct?
Correct.
Okay, because that's, I mean, I think that's what I heard, that it is, but it's not. I know we were under the understanding that it's not. Okay, thank you. But I would also support the work session.
Yeah, and one other thought too is with 1590, it's going to be, I'm not sure what you're envisioning, but it's going to be a considerable amount of time before we would receive any funding from that. Do you know?
Usually and Mark Gasway may be on, but it's my understanding sometimes if council implements like a new tax revenue, it has to start in the next quarter. So if you're one day in the one quarter, it's not going to start till the next quarter. And then it's a 2-month lag before we get the funding from the state. So correct, it's not immediate.
Okay, and there's no, what's the balance in $1,406? Have we allocated all of those? No.
No, we do have funding in the 1406 funds for this year. And so those could be allocated per council's direction. I think part of the conversation has been how council would like to allocate those funds on an ongoing basis, you know, and as we talked about last week, there are a few different options that council could consider, including doing annual RFPs, doing an RFP for funding that commits funds over a longer period of time, as well as some other potential options that we'll be looking at in that work session that will get scheduled.
Great. Mark Gasaway has joined us and he has his hand up.
So I just want to clarify one thing. With the 1590, there's a 75-day notification period for the Department of Revenue. So once it's approved, they require a 75-day notification period. The actual collection doesn't start until the quarter after the 75 days. So if you were to approve it now, it probably wouldn't start until October sometime. And then there's a 2-month delay in the distribution. So there's quite a time lag in implementing that funding. I just want to make that clear.
Thank you very much for that. Go ahead.
Jordan, I think you did mention that we still had some funding in 1406. Do you know, or maybe Mark, how much we have remaining?
I believe we have around $1 million, but I can double check that. We haven't spent any of the 2025 revenue as of yet.
And what is the Vancouver Housing Authority asking for?
If I'm remembering correctly, Councilor Young or Marshall, let me know if this is your recollection as well. I believe they were about $5 million short on the total financing for the Weaver Creek Commons project, although they anticipated that could potentially come from multiple sources.
And Jordan, just to reiterate, you're correct, but I believe it's actually more than $1 million. I think it's closer to $2 million. So
okay.
So I think we don't know for sure exactly what is needed, a dollar amount that can help kind of bridge the gap that they're experiencing so that we don't jeopardize the Weaver Creek project. Councilor Young?
I was just going to ask for clarification on the 1406 funds. There was one project that we approved, I think last year, that it was kind of, it's in limbo. So has that been put back into the fund, and is that not moving forward, or is it still in limbo?
The last I've heard, it is still a bit in limbo. I have had some communication with our community services folks and who are managing that contract, and it sounded like there were issues getting all the needed like insurance paperwork and some of the assurances, and then they had not heard back from the operator for a while. It sounds like they actually have heard back from the operator somewhat recently, but some of the ongoing issues with being able to move that contract forward still have not been resolved. And so I'm not sure if they're going to be able to resolve them or not, given the current situation. And just as background for a couple of the new counselors, this was funding that was allocated early in 2024 to the Recovery Hotel for some upgrades to their kitchen, laundry services, electrical, because they were leasing the building, and they were unable to get assurances from the owner of the property that they could use it for affordable housing for at least the next 5 years. They came back to council, and the workaround was that they would have a mobile kitchen unit. Like a Wolf Industries, like a small modular kitchen unit that could be external, that could support the folks who are living at the Recovery Hotel. However, it sounds like even with that workaround, they've been unable to work with the provider to get all the contract specifications, insurance, everything all squared away. So that's a long way, Counselor, of saying it is still in limbo as far as I'm aware.
Thank you.
So is council interested in having VHA come to council time, which is what they've done in the past when they've requested funding from 1406, to get an update from them? Or would you prefer a work session first on all the menu of options? What's your preference?
I'm most concerned with Weaver Creek and their ability to pull that project off, and what solutions they see that could be viable. If there are other potential sources, if they're able to do some financing, if they know they can get some additional from us. I don't think we have a firm idea about that, but that I would like to know sooner than later, because it sounds like it's very time sensitive.
So would you like to have them on, we can invite them to council time next week if you'd like.
I think that would be good, and maybe Jordan or someone could work with them to figure out what exactly their request could be that would be most feasible, because it sounds like the 1590 might not, it sounded like it might not be available by the end of the year if there was a majority of the council that even supported it. So there's uncertainty there. So I think there's that immediate question of what is needed to make the Weaver Creek project work. And then also, I think we need a thorough work session on what the options are related to financing, funding for affordable housing. And the broader picture that I'm thinking of affordable housing is if the county can provide has the ability to provide some resources, it can be helpful across the county as all the cities struggle to meet the housing requirements in the comp plan update. So I think there's a lot of need. That's my thought.
Yeah, that would work great for me. They had just asked for a meeting with me yesterday, so I have the latest information. It was just in the next month they needed a certain amount of money. We didn't get to specifics, but to fill this funding gap, otherwise the project would be in jeopardy, they told me. So that's why they need our help.
Okay, we'll pin that down, and things will come back.
So we can, yeah,
At a
we
council
can
time, I
invite,
guess.
yeah, we can invite VHA to next week's council time. With regards to a work session, it looks like the earliest date that we have is August 27th. Is that soon enough? And if not, is council willing to do a special meeting?
And that's for work session for 1590.
Yes.
Correct.
Well, and it would be for affordable housing and
For
all the
housing in general.
options. Yes, with
Okay.
the
The
treasurer.
suite of options we might,
Yes.
if we decide to choose any of
A
them.
little bit over a month from now. I mean, if that's I think the soonest we can without having to call a special session, then I'm supportive of that.
Okay. The 27th
27th.
of August.
Just to be clear, the Vancouver Housing Authority will be invited to attend a council session time next week.
Council time, yes.
Okay,
To
perfect.
talk
Thank you.
about what their current needs are for Weaver Creek project.
Okay.
And we'll get a confirmation of how much money
Okay.
is in that balance.
Okay. In addition, if we make a decision to support the project, does it get made that day or?
You can provide direction to staff, and then we'll bring back a staff report at the August 5th council meeting for final decision for council.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for
Thank
that.
you.
That's good to get a little more clarity in all of that. Okay, anything else? Did you have anything else to bring up at this time? Okay. Okay, let me look at my agenda. Did you have anything else, Jordan?
That was everything on my list. Thank you, counselors.
Okay, great. And so now we're looking at moving into executive session. 9.1, potential litigation, RCW 42.30.110, paren 1, paren little I for 15 minutes. No after action, potential litigation, same RCW for 10 minutes. Again, no after action. And then pending litigation, RCW 42.30.110, paren 1, paren little I for 20 minutes. That's a total of 45 minutes. So that would put us at 3:15. I look to Michelle to validate that. All right, so we'll be in executive session and reconvene following.
The chair has asked that we announce that executive session will be extended for an additional 15 minutes and open session will reconvene at 3:30. Thank you. Good afternoon again. Chair Marshall has asked us to announce that executive session will be extended for an additional 15 minutes and open session will reconvene at 3:45. Thank you. The chair has asked us to announce that executive session will be extended for an additional 10 minutes and open session will reconvene at 3:55. Thank you.
Council has returned from our executive session. There's no action to be taken. That concludes our agenda, and without objection, this meeting is adjourned.